I stand frozen in the kitchen, my fingers clutching the granite countertop as Trevor's voice slices through the air like a surgeon's scalpel. $120. The grocery receipt dangles from his fingers, my heartbeat hammers against my ribs, each pulse sending a wave of dizziness through my head. Something inside me whispers that this isn't normal, that this reaction to a grocery bill isn't right. But another part, the part that's been growing stronger these past 2 years, reminds me that peace comes through accommodation. For what organic vegetables, imported cheese? His voice rises with each word. Do you think I work 70-hour weeks at the firm so you can waste money on fancy groceries? My knees weaken as blood pounds in my ears. I grip the counter edge tighter, feeling my fingernails press into my palms. The rational part of my brain, the nurse who stays calm during pediatric emergencies, tries to make sense of his anger, but logic seems distant when faced with the cold fury in Trevor's eyes. I didn't buy anything fancy. I managed my voice smaller than intended. Just the usual groceries, and those ribeye steaks you wanted for. The vase shatters against the wall inches from my head. Water and daffodils spray across the pristine tile. I flinch, my stomach clenching so violently I taste bile. 4 years ago, Trevor kissed me beneath crystal chandeliers while 180 guests applauded. Dad had walked me down the aisle in his navy dress, white's medals gleaming under the church lights. His weathered face had shown a mix of pride and something else, something I couldn't name then, but recognize now as caution. Trevor's demeanor transforms completely, his shoulders, square jaw clenching as he steps closer. The charm that captivated me during our courthouse romance disappears, replaced by something glacial and calculating. His finger jabs toward my chest, stopping just short of touching me. Do you have any idea what kind of pressure I'm under right now? Partnership decisions are being made this quarter. What do you think it says about me if I can't even control household expenses? Control. The word echoes in my head, connecting to other moments, other confrontations that I've carefully filed away. But the steaks were for your dinner with Mr. Braxton, I say, disbelief washing over me. Last month you told everyone how perfectly I cooked them. The memory surfaces clearly. Trevor's hand on my shoulder, his voice warm with pride as he told his colleagues, "My wife makes the best ribeye in Chicago. Restaurant quality, wouldn't you agree?" Now his eyes narrow as if I've laid a trap rather than stated a fact. My throat tightens, heart racing as the disconnect between past and present grows wider. The analytical part of my brain, the part that tracks symptoms and vital signs, catalogs my own physical response. Elevated pulse, shallow breathing, tunnel vision, narrowing my world to just Trevor's face. "Trevor," I whisper, "please tell me what's really bothering you. This can't be about groceries." For a flickering second, I see our first date at the lakefront restaurant, his charming smile, the gentle way he opened my car door, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back as he guided me inside. When did that same hand start making me flinch instead of flutter? "Don't try to analyze me, Ava." His voice drops dangerously low. "You're a pediatric nurse, not a psychiatrist. You barely handle the stress of changing bandages on children." The deliberately crafted insult strikes its target. My work with pediatric cancer patients is my sanctuary, the place where I still feel competent and valued. Trevor knows this. He used to bring me flowers after particularly difficult shifts, understanding the emotional toll of my chosen specialty. I straighten my spine, summoning the professional calm I use when speaking to anxious parents. I need to step outside for a moment. We're not finished discussing this. Trevor moves smoothly between me and the doorway. "You're not going anywhere." The reality of my situation crystallizes with terrible clarity. How long since I've gone out with colleagues after work? 3 months. No, 5. Trevor's concern about my exhaustion led me to reduce my shifts. My best friend Caroline stopped texting after Trevor explained I was too busy to meet for coffee, a conversation I never authorized but discovered when he mentioned it casually. Every bank account requires his approval for withdrawals. My phone regularly malfunctions, erasing messages Trevor deems negative influences. Each purchase faces scrutiny with receipts, examined like evidence at a crime scene. "The cameras are recording, you know." His voice shifts, becoming reasonable, almost gentle. The abrupt change is more terrifying than his anger. "Security system's been running all morning. Would you like me to show Dr. Mitchell how you behave at home? I'm sure the hospital administrator would find it illuminating." The kitchen cameras. Installed 3 months ago for security after a break-in 2 blocks away. Their small red lights blink steadily from corner mounts. My colleague Susan had texted last week, "Something seems off. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The message disappeared before I could respond. When I mentioned the odd glitch, Trevor had smiled sympathetically and suggested I was working too hard. "Maybe we should discuss reducing your schedule further," he says now, voice laced with concern that sounds genuine enough to make me doubt myself. "Your emotional instability is concerning. I might need to call Dr. Mitchell myself." The threat lands precisely. My nursing license, my independence hangs in the balance. The phone rings, shattering the tension. Trevor checks the caller ID and transforms instantly, his voice warming as he answers. "Andrea, what a pleasure. Andrea Braxton, wife of Trevor's managing partner." I watch the transformation with clinical detachment, filing away this observation like a nurse noting an important symptom. "Tomorrow night, we'd be delighted." Trevor's entire demeanor radiates charm. "Ava was just saying how much she enjoyed your company at the firm's spring gala." I maintain a neutral expression as he discusses dinner plans, noting how easily he shifts between personas. The conversation ends with practiced pleasantries. "That was John Braxton's wife," Trevor announces unnecessarily. "They're inviting us to dinner tomorrow night. This could make my career, so pull yourself together. No emotional scenes." A sudden opportunity appears. "I should get a new dress," I suggest carefully. "Nothing in my closet is appropriate for dinner with the Braxtons." Trevor considers this weighing control against appearance. "Fine, don't spend more than $200. As I gather my purse, my mind races through options. Dad's last 3 calls have gone unanswered. Trevor always seems to need the phone when my father tries to reach me. I need to make a call while I'm out, I decide silently, feeling the weight of my hospital ID badge tucked secretly in my wallet. The secure phone in my locker might be my only chance. I sit in the mall parking lot, gripping my steering wheel until my knuckles turn white. Shoppers pass by my car, laughing, carrying bags, living normal lives. My hands shake as I reach for my phone, sliding it from my purse with the careful movements of someone handling explosives. The secure folder is buried 3 layers deep in my photo gallery, innocuously labeled Nursing Conference 2023. Trevor has never bothered to look through it. Medical conferences bore him, and he assumes the photos are just tedious professional documentation. He's wrong. I tap the folder open, and my breath catches as the evidence of the last 14 months appears on my screen. A bruise on my upper arm from when Trevor grabbed me during an argument about a dinner party. A series of screenshots showing text messages before Trevor deleted them from my phone. A meticulously maintained list of controlling behaviors dated and categorized. April 3, Trevor criticized nursing career, suggested I'm more dedicated to sick children than our marriage. June 17, Trevor insisted I cancel weekend shifts because it makes him look like he can't provide. August 22, Trevor accidentally deleted message from Caroline inviting me to lunch. The catalog of small cruelties grows more extensive as I scroll. What began as occasional criticism evolved into something systematic, precise, like a surgeon excising parts of my life, until only the pieces he approved remained. I scroll to photos from last Christmas at his parents' house. Vivian Brennan stands beside the 12-foot tree in her Lake Forest home, champagne flute in hand, examining me with the cool assessment of someone appraising furniture. That dress seems rather economical for a holiday gathering. She had said the word economical, wielded like a scalpel. The dress had cost $150 at Macy's, an amount that once seemed extravagant to me. Belle, Trevor's sister, appears in the next photo, her perfect blonde hair cascading over a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly student loan payment. I remember her walking through our house for the first time, gesturing dismissively at our 3 bedrooms and renovated kitchen. "It's cute," she had said. "A starter rental, right?" My throat tightens as I swipe to the most painful photo, the empty space on our guest room wall where my grandmother's patchwork quilt once hung. The quilt she'd sewn from scraps of my grandfather's Navy uniforms, my baby clothes, and fabric from her own wedding dress. Vivian had tossed it into a donation bin while I was at work, claiming she was helping organize. When I confronted Trevor, his response burns fresh in my memory. She was trying to help Ava. That old rag didn't match our decor. My thumb hovers over the most recent documentation, the hidden recording of Trevor explaining to his mother why I wouldn't be attending my father's retirement ceremony. "Dad's invited us to Washington for his Navy retirement next month," I had told Trevor excitedly. "I've already committed us to the firm's retreat that weekend," Trevor had replied without looking up from his laptop. "You'll have to send your regrets." But there had been no firm retreat. The recording captured Trevor's real explanation to his mother. Richard Carter asks too many questions. The less contact they have, the better. My father. The one person Trevor seemed truly concerned about. A decorated naval officer who had raised me with military precision after my mother died, the man whose skeptical expression I now notice in our wedding photos as I continue scrolling. The nurse in me takes over, analyzing the situation with clinical detachment. I recognize the pattern now, the classic signs of gaslighting that make me question my own memory and judgment. I've counseled parents of sick children through trauma and grief, yet somehow failed to identify the symptoms in my own life. My colleagues see Trevor as the devoted husband who sends flowers after difficult shifts. His law partners view him as ambitious but principled. Our neighbors think we're the perfect professional couple. Only now do I recognize how carefully he's maintained this public facade while systematically isolating me. The canceled coffee dates with Caroline, the reduced hospital shifts, the malfunctioning phone that erases messages from my father. If I were counseling a patient showing these signs, what would I tell her? The answer forms with perfect clarity. Document everything, identify allies, create a safety plan. Direct confrontation would be dangerous. Trevor's specialty at Sullivan and Pierce Law is high net worth divorce cases. He knows exactly how to maneuver through legal proceedings, how to present himself as reasonable while painting partners as unstable or vindictive. I need evidence and witnesses before I can safely leave. I whisper to myself the words strangely empowering despite their grim implication. Trevor's law firm obsession suddenly makes perfect sense. His managing partner is considering him for partnership this quarter. Appearance is everything to Trevor's success. Control, the perfect wife who knows her place. Vivian has cultivated this obsession, constantly comparing him to more successful attorneys, pushing him to climb higher, secure, more prestigious clients. Belle enables both of them, financially dependent on her mother's generosity and her brother's connections for her struggling boutique. The three of them form a perfect triangle of expectation and performance. What makes Trevor truly dangerous isn't frequent physical abuse that would leave evidence. Instead, he calibrates his control precisely using intimidation and psychological pressure that leaves no visible marks. His sophisticated understanding of legal boundaries means he knows exactly how far to push without crossing lines that would trigger mandatory reporting. And now the Braxton's dinner has placed him under intense scrutiny. The partnership decision looms. Trevor will be more volatile, more dangerous than ever. I tap open the contacts in my second phone, the prepaid device purchased with cash tips from grateful parents of my patients kept hidden in my hospital locker. I dial the number I've memorized since childhood. Ava. My father's voice answers on the second ring, not a question but a statement of recognition. Dad, I whisper, relief washing through me at the sound of his measured, steady tone. I need help. No emotional outburst follows. No questions about why I've been distant. Instead, Colonel Richard Carter responds with the methodical precision that defined his 38 years of military service. Send me everything you've documented. I'm bringing in reinforcements. His voice remains calm, controlled, the voice that commanded naval operations and guided military strategy. Wear the blue dress with long sleeves tomorrow night. I'll have eyes on you by 1900 hours. The analytical part of my brain registers the military time reference 7:00 p.m. The emotional part experiences the first glimmer of hope I've felt in months. Dad always had a battle plan, I think, remembering childhood lessons about strategy and preparation. I'm no longer facing this alone. I have an ally who understands that emotional reactions won't help, only careful planning and decisive action. As I start the car to continue my shopping errand, my official reason for being out, I feel something shifting inside me. The fear remains, but alongside it grows something stronger, a sense of purpose and clarity that has been absent for too long. By tomorrow night, everything will change. I need only follow the plan. I wake at sunrise, hours before Trevor, my heart racing with a mix of dread and determination. Last night I'd feigned sleep while he ranted about proper dinner etiquette. Today carries higher stakes. The shower hisses to life down the hall. My window of opportunity has arrived. Trevor's laptop sits on his desk, its screen glowing with uncharacteristic carelessness. In 15 years of nursing, I've learned to recognize when seconds count. I move silently across our bedroom, the plush carpet masking my footsteps. His password manager pops up automatically. The same overconfidence that makes him dangerous now works against him. I navigate to a folder labeled Contingencies, buried 3 levels deep in his documents. My fingers tremble slightly on the keyboard. Oh God, I whisper the air leaving my lungs. Page after page of meticulous documentation unfolds before me. Bank statements showing joint accounts nearly emptied. Credit card statements with my signature forged on charges I never made. Notes about my emotional instability dating back 18 months. Detailed descriptions of my unhealthy obsession with sick children and inability to prioritize marriage over career. The water continues running. I grab my phone from beneath the mattress and photograph everything rapidly, my nurse's hands steady, despite the adrenaline surging through my veins. Each click feels like reclaiming a piece of my future. One document steals my breath, completely correspondence with a private investigator tracking my father's movements. Trevor has been monitoring Colonel Carter for months. I forward everything to the secure email address Dad created yesterday, then methodically erase my digital footprints. Browser history deleted, files returned to their precise locations. Chair positioned exactly as I found it. The shower turns off. I slip back to my side of the bed, heart hammering against my ribs. When Trevor emerges, I offer the smile he expects. The reservation at Marcello's is at 7, he reminds me, adjusting his tie. The Braxtons are extremely punctual. I'll be ready, I promise, the weight of what I've discovered burning in my chest. After my shift that day, the drive to Marcello's passes in tense silence. Trevor rehearses talking points about his cases while I nod at appropriate intervals. The restaurant looms ahead, all gleaming glass and polished brass. Remember, Trevor murmurs as the valet opens my door, let me guide the conversation. The Braxtons already wait at the table, John Braxton's imposing figure rising as we approach. His handshake is firm, his gaze assessing. Trevor, Ava, delighted you could join us, he says, gesturing toward his wife. Andrea Braxton extends manicured fingers, her eyes warm despite her formal appearance. So lovely to finally meet you properly, Ava. We've only had those brief interactions at firm functions. The waiter appears with menus, while Trevor launches into a discussion about quarterly projections. I notice how skillfully he positions himself as indispensable to the firm's success. Enough shop talk, Andrea interrupts after our salads arrive. She turns toward me. Trevor mentions you work with children. What exactly do you do at the hospital? Trevor answers before I can open my mouth. It's just basic bedside stuff, nothing impressive. Changing bandages, taking temperatures. His dismissive wave cuts through the air between us. Something shifts inside me. The photographs I took this morning flash through my mind, evidence of his systematic destruction of my life. I straighten my spine. Actually, I say, my voice steadier than it's been in months. I developed a program that reduced anxiety in pediatric cancer patients by 40% during treatment protocols. Andrea's eyebrows lift with genuine interest. That's remarkable work. How did you design it? Trevor's water glass freezes halfway to his mouth. I feel his leg tense against mine under the table. I noticed that certain preparation techniques significantly reduced cortisol levels in children facing painful procedures. I explain, warming to my subject. We incorporated sensory distraction, age-appropriate explanation protocols, and parent training. The hospital has since implemented it across 3 departments. Mr. Braxton nods appreciatively. Your wife's compassion speaks volumes about your family values, Trevor. Trevor's knuckles whiten around his water glass. Ava is quite dedicated, he manages his tone brittle. For the first time in years, I feel like myself again, the pediatric nurse who earned recognition for innovative patient care, not the diminished shadow I've become. When Andrea catches my eye across the table, something passes between us, a wordless recognition that sends a chill down my spine. The remainder of dinner unfolds, with Trevor growing increasingly tense. When we finally stand to leave, Andrea clasps my hand. We should have coffee sometime, she says. I'd love to hear more about your work. Trevor's fingers dig into my elbow as we walk to the car. We'll discuss your behavior when we get home, he hisses, smiling mechanically at the valet. The drive passes in ominous silence. My phone vibrates in my purse with a text from Dad in position. Green light. As we pull into our driveway, I notice 2 cars I recognize immediately, Vivian's silver Mercedes and Belle's white BMW convertible. Trevor has called for reinforcements. We enter through the front door to find Vivian perched on our sofa, Belle standing by the fireplace. Their presence confirms what I suspected. Tonight marks a decisive confrontation. "There you are," Vivian says, her voice honey laced with arsenic. Trevor called us, quite concerned. The door clicks shut behind us. Trevor's controlled facade crumbles instantly. "You deliberately embarrassed me," he shouts, rounding on me in the center of our living room. Vivian rises, her cashmere sweater immaculate despite the late hour. A wife should elevate her husband, not overshadow him. Belle smirks from her position by the mantel. "This is why you'll never fit into our family." Their coordinated attack, so familiar now, feels different tonight. "I've seen the evidence. I know what they've been doing. I've sacrificed my career, my friendships, even my grandmother's quilt for this family," I say, keeping my voice level. Trevor's face transforms, a cold fury replacing calculation. His hand swings toward my face with shocking speed. The slap echoes through the room, stunning even Vivian into momentary silence. The doorbell rings. "Who the hell is that?" Trevor demands, his voice ragged. No one moves. The doorbell rings again, followed by 3 sharp knocks. "I'll get it," I say quietly. When I open the door, my father stands on our porch in full military dress uniform, his navy medals gleaming under the porch light. 2 younger officers in formal uniform flank him, their expressions professionally neutral. "Dad," I whisper. Colonel Richard Carter steps into the entryway with military precision. The 2 officers follow, positioning themselves just inside the door. Trevor stares in disbelief. "This is a private family matter." My father's voice cuts through the room with the authority of 38 years of military command. "When you put hands on my daughter, it became my matter." The officers stand silently as witnesses, their presence transforming our living room into something resembling a tribunal. For the first time since my wedding day, I feel the full weight of my father's protection surrounding me. The shield I'd forgotten was always there. The suite at the Marriott downtown feels more like a military command center than a hotel room. Maps of Chicago mark the walls, and a conference table stretches across the center, covered with labeled folders arranged in perfect rows. The air smells of coffee and determination. I stand at the window, watching the city lights blink on as evening descends. 24 hours ago, I was still in Trevor's house. Now I'm plotting my escape like a prisoner of war. "These are the financial records," says the accountant. Dad brought in a former Navy intelligence officer with steel gray hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. "Your husband emptied the joint savings account 3 months ago. He's been systematically transferring funds to accounts you don't have access to." I nod, feeling strangely detached as I review the spreadsheets. The nurse in me has taken over the part that can look at blood and trauma without flinching. "He said we were saving for a vacation home. You were paying for it," the accountant corrects, "but you weren't going to own it." Colonel Richard Carter, my father, stands at the head of the table, ramrod straight despite his 62 years. His navy dress blues have been replaced by a crisp button-down and slacks, but his bearing remains unmistakably military. "We're treating this as a strategic extraction," he says, tapping a folder marked legal. "Trevor knows the system. He'll use it against you if we don't anticipate his moves." The word extraction makes my throat tighten. The clinical term for what I'm doing, leaving my husband, feels both validating and terrifying. "The timing worked in our favor," Dad continues. "Having the Braxtons witness his behavior creates credible third-party testimony. Andrea's already agreed to provide a statement." I pick up a photograph of my arm bruised in the shape of fingerprints. "Will this be enough?" "It's not just the physical evidence," says Karen Wilson, the lawyer Dad recruited. "It's the pattern. Financial control, isolation from friends and family, surveillance, threats to your professional standing. These are all documented forms of abuse." Trevor will say, "I'm unstable." I counter, voicing my greatest fear. He's been building that narrative for months. Dad's jaw tightens. "Which is precisely why we're not fighting emotion with emotion. We're dismantling his control systematically." Karen nods. "Your professional reputation is exceptional. 3 colleagues have provided statements about your performance at work. We filed for a temporary restraining order based on the incident your father witnessed." The suite door opens and a trim man in his 50s enters, nodding to my father. Another military connection, I assume. "Hospital security has been briefed," he reports. "They've implemented a visitor screening protocol for the pediatric ward." I feel a wave of gratitude so intense it makes my knees weak. For years I've handled everything alone. Now an entire team mobilizes around me, each person addressing a different threat with practiced efficiency. "The law firm has been discreetly notified about potential ethics violations," Karen adds. "We're not making accusations, just ensuring they're aware there might be issues to address." Dad unfolds a map of the hospital campus. Your shifts have been rearranged to ensure you're never alone entering or exiting the building. I run my fingers over the documentation of my own life texts. Trevor deleted bank statements showing controlled spending, photographs of injuries I'd explained away. The evidence looks damning when assembled chronologically. We've hired someone to document Vivian and Belle's participation, Dad says. Their harassment constitutes a pattern of family intimidation. I stiffen as my phone buzzes with a notification. It's from the court system. The room falls silent as I read the message aloud. Trevor has filed an emergency petition claiming I abandoned our marital home. There's a hearing scheduled in 48 hours. Panic rises in my chest, squeezing my lungs. He's moving faster than we anticipated. He knows the legal system inside out. For a terrible moment, I'm back in our kitchen, watching Trevor transform from charming husband to calculating adversary in the blink of an eye. Dad takes the phone, reads the notification, and hands it to Karen. His expression remains unchanged, but I recognize the subtle shift in his posture, the same readiness I'd seen before deployments throughout my childhood. He's playing checkers, Dad says, his voice steady. We're playing chess. Karen is already typing on her laptop. This is actually good news. He's showing his hand early. How is this good, I ask, struggling to keep my voice level. Because Dad says he thinks he's dealing with just you. He has no idea he's facing an entire platoon. The room resumes its methodical activity, each person adapting their strategy to this new development. I watch them work, these strangers fighting for me, and something shifts in my chest. Not hope exactly, it's too soon for that, but perhaps its precursor, the recognition that I'm not alone anymore. I straighten my shoulders and pick up the next folder. Trevor taught me about control. Now I'll teach him about liberation. I steady my hand against the mahogany conference table, watching as Dad's legal team arranges documents with military precision. 2 days since I left Trevor's house, our hotel suite has transformed into a tactical command center. Evidence folders fan across the table in color-coded categories, financial records in red, medical documentation in blue, witness statements in green. The restraining order provides immediate protection. Attorney Wilson explains, her voice calm but firm as she reviews Trevor's emergency petition. But his claim that you abandoned the marital home without cause is designed to paint you as unstable. My throat tightens. He's always been meticulous about appearances. Dad stands beside the window, his Navy retirement insignia catching the afternoon light. At 62, Colonel Richard Carter maintains the ramrod posture of his 38 years of service. The lines around his eyes deepen as he studies the street below. Trevor's attempting to control the narrative, he says without turning. Standard procedure when losing tactical advantage. I scan the photographs arranged in careful sequence, the bruise on my arm from last March, the shattered vase from 2 months ago, the financial statements showing systematically drained accounts. Each piece of evidence carries the weight of a confession I couldn't make until now. Andrea Braxton called me again this morning, I tell them. She's willing to testify about Trevor's behavior at firm events. Dad nods approvingly. Civilian witnesses with social standing carry significant weight, especially from his professional circle. The hospital administrator's letter sits prominently in the documentation pile, detailing my exemplary work record and contradicting Trevor's claims about my emotional stability. My nursing credentials, the very thing he tried to use against me, now form the foundation of my defense. We're preparing for war, not just a skirmish, Attorney Wilson says, arranging witness statements in sequence. Judge Peterson has scheduled the hearing for tomorrow morning. Trevor will arrive with reinforcements, so we need to anticipate every possible attack. Dad's phone buzzes. He checks the screen, his expression hardening slightly before he tucks it away. Security protocols are established, he informs us. Safe house location secured in case the court ruling doesn't go our way. Communications plan in place with limited outside contact. The methodical planning soothes my frayed nerves. For months, Trevor made me believe I was overreacting, imagining slights, creating problems. Now each piece of evidence validates what I've experienced, transforming private suffering into documented fact. My attention drifts to the window as a black sedan pulls into the hotel parking lot. My breath catches when 2 familiar figures emerge. Dad. I whisper, my fingers suddenly cold. It's Vivian and Belle. Dad moves with surprising speed to the window, gesturing for Attorney Wilson to continue working. Confirmed, he says quietly. Security team reports they've been circling the hotel for 20 minutes. My heart hammers against my ribs. How did they find us? Do they know we're here? The attorney's assistant steps into the room, her expression tense. Colonel Carter's security reported a potential breach. The hotel manager mentioned guests asking about you by name. Dad's calm somehow intensifies, becoming more focused rather than rattled. Execute contingency plan Baker, immediate relocation to secured facility. Despite the fear coursing through me, I begin methodically gathering evidence into protective folders, a nurse's trained response to emergency. No panicked movements, no wasted energy. What about tomorrow's hearing, I ask, maintaining the steady rhythm of document collection. Proceeding as scheduled, Dad answers. This just confirms we've hit a nerve. They're desperate. Through the window, I watch Belle raise her phone, photographing the hotel entrance. The calculated determination in her posture reminds me so much of Trevor that my stomach clenches. Security footage from the lobby shows them speaking with the front desk clerk. The assistant reports showing us her tablet. The woman matching Vivian's description attempted to access guest records. Dad's expression doesn't change, but his voice carries an edge of satisfaction. They're desperate. That means we're winning. The question burns in my mind as I secure the last evidence folder. Should I confront them directly, march downstairs, and demand they leave me alone? The old Ava, the one who shrank to accommodate Trevor's moods, would have sought immediate peace at any cost. Instead, I zip the leather portfolio with steady hands. We stick to the plan. Confrontation gives them what they want, emotional reaction they can use against me. Dad's approving nod warms something inside me that's been cold for too long. Within 15 minutes, our evidence is secured in reinforced cases. Dad's military colleagues arrive with unmarked vehicles, and we exit through the service entrance while Vivian and Belle continue their surveillance at the main lobby. At the secured military facility 30 minutes later, we resume preparation without missing a beat. The legal team conducts a final evidence review in a windowless conference room that smells faintly of coffee and paper. Everything is in place, Dad says, his quiet confidence steadying my nerves. Trust the process, Ava. As we complete the checkout procedures from our military accommodations the next morning, I run my fingers over the familiar pattern of my grandmother's quilt, the one Vivian had discarded as not matching their decor. Dad had somehow retrieved it from storage during these chaotic days, placing it in the secure location with my other essential belongings. Ready for court, he asks, his eyes crinkling slightly at the corners. I straighten my spine, feeling the weight of the evidence we've gathered, the strategy we've developed, the allies we've assembled. The transformation from frightened spouse to strategic advocate doesn't feel complete yet, but it's well underway. Ready, I confirm, stepping toward the door with military precision in my stride. The next day, I arrived at the courthouse 45 minutes early, just as Colonel Dad insisted. The building's imposing marble columns loom overhead like sentinels, their shadows stretching across the steps, where I stand clutching my leather portfolio. Inside, evidence of Trevor's abuse is meticulously organized: photographs, financial records, medical reports, all testament to the unraveling of our marriage. Remember the plan, Dad murmurs beside me, his military posture unchanged since my childhood. No emotional reactions. Stay focused on the facts. I nod, feeling my pulse quicken as a familiar black sedan pulls to the curb. Trevor emerges first, immaculate in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I make in 2 weeks. His mother Vivian follows, her silvery bob, perfectly styled pearl earrings catching morning light. Belle completes their trinity, her red-rimmed eyes, a calculated performance. Incoming, Dad whispers, straightening his tie. 3 o'clock. A crowd approaches from the parking garage, Trevor's complete legal team. Not just his firm colleague as expected, but 3 attorneys rolling briefcases behind them like a small army. My stomach tightens as I recognize Marcus Holloway, a senior partner known for handling high-profile divorces. They're escalating. I manage keeping my voice steady despite the wave of nausea washing over me. Dad's weathered hand touches my elbow. Expected. They wouldn't bring reinforcements if they weren't worried. Inside the courthouse, we locate our attorney Grant waiting in the corridor. His expression darkens when he spots Trevor's expanded legal team. They've filed an amended petition this morning, Grant says, his jaw tight. Just got the notification. They're claiming psychological instability. The floor seems to shift beneath my feet. On what grounds? They're alleging your work with pediatric cancer patients has created emotional instability. They've included a request for psychological evaluation and... He hesitates, potential suspension of your nursing license pending review. My nursing license. The one thing Trevor couldn't control, the professional identity I managed to preserve through years of his gradual domination. The room tilts slightly as blood rushes from my head. That's their gambit, Dad says, voice low and controlled despite the whitening of his knuckles. Attack what matters most. Through the bustling corridor, I notice Vivian casually approaching a woman with a press badge. Their conversation appears casual, but I recognize Vivian's performance head tilted in concern, hand occasionally touching her heart. We're just worried about her. Vivian's voice carries just loudly enough. She's not herself lately. Belle stands nearby, dabbing at her eyes. My brother gave her everything. We don't understand what happened. The courtroom doors open precisely at 9. We file in, taking our positions at opposite tables. Trevor's team immediately begins arranging documents, their movements precise and coordinated, like dancers who've rehearsed for weeks. Judge Evelyn Madsen enters, her gray hair cut in a practical bob. Her reputation for no-nonsense efficiency precedes her. The court recognizes case number 24-DV-4872 Brennan versus Carter, she announces. Trevor's attorney rises first. Your Honor, we filed an emergency amendment this morning, given the sensitive nature of Mrs. Brennan's employment with vulnerable patients. We believe immediate action is warranted regarding her mental fitness. My fingers curl around the edge of my chair. Mrs. Brennan. As if my identity exists only as an extension of Trevor's. Additionally, the attorney continues, we request all marital assets be frozen immediately to prevent dissipation, pending full evaluation. Grant stands unruffled. Your Honor, we've anticipated this maneuver. These last-minute filings represent a continued pattern of financial and professional control. We're prepared to present comprehensive evidence of systematic abuse. The judge reviews both filings, her expression unreadable. I'll hear opening statements, then review evidence from both parties. Trevor's attorney paints a masterful portrait, a devoted husband concerned about his wife's declining mental health, a successful attorney working tirelessly while his wife made increasingly erratic decisions, a family united in worry over my well-being. When our turn comes, Grant presents a different narrative, documented evidence of isolation, financial control, and escalating emotional abuse culminating in physical violence. He introduces our witnesses one by one. The courtroom door opens quietly as Andrea Braxton enters with her husband John, managing partner at Trevor's firm. Trevor's face pales visibly as they take seats directly behind me. We call Andrea Braxton, Grant announces. Andrea approaches the stand elegant in a simple navy suit. Under oath, she describes witnessing Trevor belittling me at multiple firm events, controlling conversations, and monitoring my interactions with others. At our home dinner 4 days ago, she testifies, I observed Mr. Brennan became visibly agitated when Mrs. Carter discussed her pediatric cancer program. Later, I overheard him telling her she had embarrassed him by speaking about her work. John Braxton nods slightly from his seat, his presence a silent rebuke to Trevor's professional facade. Next comes Dr. Mitchell, Chicago Memorial's chief of nursing. Mrs. Carter's professional record is exemplary, she states firmly. Her pediatric anxiety reduction program has been adopted by 3 other hospitals. Any suggestion of professional instability is completely unfounded. As our financial expert details the systematic draining of joint accounts and calculated credit destruction, I notice Trevor's confident posture beginning to crack. His right leg bounces slightly beneath the table, a tell I recognize from countless arguments at home. His team's counteroffensive comes swiftly. A folder appears passed to the judge with theatrical gravity. Your Honor, we've obtained pharmacy records indicating concerning patterns in Mrs. Brennan's prescription history, specifically regarding pain medication. The accusation lands like a physical blow. I never took pain medication, not even when Trevor's grip left bruises on my arms. Fabricated. Grant responds immediately. We can provide Mrs. Carter's complete medical records showing no such prescriptions. Before the judge can respond, Trevor's attorney produces another document. We've also documented Mrs. Brennan's erratic work schedule, leaving shifts early, calling in sick, all potential indicators of substance abuse. The blood drains from my face as I recognize the strategy. Every early departure to accommodate Trevor's demands, every sick day following a particularly difficult night at home, all weaponized against me. Permission to approach, Your Honor, Grant says, removing a flash drive from his portfolio. We have audio recordings documenting Mr. Brennan's instructions to his wife to reduce her work hours, along with threatening language regarding her career. Judge Madsen's expression shifts subtly. The court will take a 30-minute recess to review all submitted evidence. As the judge exits, Trevor's attorney leans toward him, their whispered conversation intense. Vivian approaches several hospital board members seated in the gallery, her expression a perfect mask of maternal concern. "They're getting desperate," Dad murmurs as we step into the corridor. "Stay focused." I nod, fighting to maintain composure when Trevor suddenly appears in my path, his charm replaced by cold fury. "You think you've won," he hisses, leaning close enough that only I can hear. "I'll destroy your career before this is over." Something shifts inside me, a final chord snapping after being stretched beyond endurance. I meet his gaze steadily. "It's already over, Trevor. The truth is all in those files." His facade cracks completely, eyes narrowing to slits. "No one leaves me. No one." Dad steps between us, his military bearing unmistakable. "Step back, son. It's finished." Vivian hurries toward us, placing herself strategically where the court reporter can overhear. "She's just confused, Your Honor. We're family." Belle stands slightly apart, watching the confrontation with uncertainty, shadowing her perfectly made-up face. For the first time, I see doubt in her eyes as she witnesses her brother's transformation. The bailiff calls us back into the courtroom. Judge Madsen enters, her expression grave as she takes her seat. The next few moments will determine whether I reclaim my life or lose everything I've fought to preserve. I take a deep breath and step forward, ready to face whatever comes next. I sit motionless on the hard wooden bench, fingers gripping the edge until my knuckles turn white. The courtroom buzzes with whispered conversations that fade as Judge Eleanor Ramirez returns to her seat. The gallery behind me is packed, hospital colleagues, Trevor's law partners, even curious courthouse staff drawn by rumors of a promising attorney's spectacular downfall. Trevor sits at the opposite table, his posture perfect in a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. His attorney leans close, whispering urgently. Whatever strategy they've devised, I know it will be sophisticated. Trevor doesn't lose, not in court, not at home, not ever. "All rise," the bailiff announces. The rustle of fabric and shuffle of shoes fills the room as everyone stands. Judge Ramirez settles into her chair, adjusts her glasses, and surveys the courtroom with sharp brown eyes that miss nothing. "Be seated." I catch a glimpse of Dad Colonel Carter sitting ramrod straight 3 rows back. His presence anchors me. Andrea Braxton sits beside him, her elegant silk blouse, a silent statement of support from Trevor's own professional circle. "Before we continue, I want to clarify something," Judge Ramirez says, her voice cutting through the tension. "I've reviewed all evidence thoroughly, including the audio recordings submitted." Trevor's shoulders stiffen almost imperceptibly. Only someone who lived with him would notice the slight tightening around his mouth. His attorney rises. "Your Honor, regarding Mrs. Brennan's petition, we maintain that she abandoned the marital home during a period of tremendous professional pressure for my client. Mr. Brennan has been under consideration for partnership, working 70-hour weeks to provide the lifestyle to which Mrs. Brennan has become accustomed." The familiar narrative makes my stomach clench. Trevor's carefully constructed image-devoted husband, rising star pillar of the community, displayed for all to see. Furthermore, his attorney continues, "We have concerns about Mrs. Brennan's emotional stability. Her intense involvement with terminally ill children has created a pattern of transference that's enough." Judge Ramirez holds up her hand. "I'm particularly interested in the surveillance footage of Colonel Carter, obtained by a private investigator hired by your client." Trevor's attorney falters. "Your Honor, that was merely prudent information gathering after Mrs. Brennan's erratic behavior. The court sees it differently." Judge Ramirez lifts a folder. "The pattern documented here suggests systematic isolation, not prudent information gathering." My breath catches. All the careful documentation, all those nights organizing evidence while questioning my own sanity, it wasn't wasted. The judge turns a page. "I find it particularly troubling that Mr. Brennan accessed Mrs. Brennan's medical records without authorization. The hospital administrator's affidavit confirms Mrs. Brennan's exemplary professional record directly contradicts claims of instability." From the corner of my eye, I see Vivian straighten in her seat, her crimson lips pressed into a thin line. Belle sits beside her, uncertainty flickering across her face for the first time I can remember. "Your Honor," Trevor's attorney interjects, "we have documentation suggesting Mrs. Brennan's emotional investment in her patients has clouded her judgment regarding..." I've reviewed those documents, Judge Ramirez interrupts. I've also reviewed Mrs. Braxton's sworn statement regarding Mr. Brennan's controlling behavior at multiple professional events. Andrea nods slightly from her seat. I remember her eyes at that dinner, the moment of woman-to-woman recognition, when Trevor cut me off mid-sentence. The judge continues methodically dismantling Trevor's case. The financial expert's analysis demonstrates a clear pattern of economic abuse. Joint accounts drained, credit cards maxed out in Mrs. Brennan's name only. A systematic effort to create financial dependence. Trevor's jaw clenches. His attorney places a warning hand on his arm. The court finds substantial evidence of coercive control. Judge Ramirez states, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. Trevor lurches to his feet. She's exaggerating everything for financial gain. Ask anyone who knows us. She's been unstable for months. Mr. Brennan. The judge's voice drops dangerously. The court has audio recordings of your threats. Would you like me to play them now? The color drains from Trevor's face. He knows exactly which recordings she means. His voice captured planning with Vivian how to manage my behavior, his threats about destroying my nursing career, his casual discussion of having Dad followed. Your Honor, his attorney tries desperately. Those recordings lack proper context. The context is quite clear, Judge Ramirez cuts in. This court grants the restraining order against Trevor Brennan, Vivian Brennan, and Belle Brennan. No contact within 500 feet of Ava Carter, her residence, or her place of employment. A sound like distant surf fills my ears. Victory. Permanent protection, not just the temporary reprieve of that dinner with the Braxtons. Trevor's polished facade cracks. His knuckles whiten against the table edge as Judge Ramirez continues. Furthermore, the court orders separate financial accounts established immediately. Mr. Brennan will have no access to Mrs. Carter's income or inheritance funds. Mrs. Carter's personal property, including family heirlooms, will be retrieved by court officers today. My grandmother's quilt. The judge remembered that specific detail from my testimony. This court finds clear evidence of domestic abuse, Judge Ramirez announces, her voice carrying to the back row, where reporters scribble furiously. The court will refer this matter to the Bar Association Ethics Committee for review. Trevor's world collapses in slow motion. Partnership considerations suspended. Professional reputation in tatters. Control, his most precious commodity, stripped away by judicial order. Any violation of this order will result in immediate consequences, Mr. Brennan, the judge warns. Her gaze shifts. Mrs. Brennan, the court notes your participation in this behavior. Vivian gasps, her hand flying to her pearl necklace, as if physically struck. Belle Brennan, Judge Ramirez continues, while you were not the primary instigator, evidence shows you participated in the harassment and isolation of Ava Carter. Belle's gaze drops to her lap. For the first time, she separates herself physically from Vivian, sliding a few inches away on the bench, a small rebellion but significant. This court session is adjourned. The gavel strikes with finality. The courtroom erupts in murmurs as Trevor confers urgently with his attorney. I remain seated, letting the reality wash over me. Free. Protected. Believed. Dad approaches, his weathered face composed but eyes shining with quiet pride. You fought this battle yourself, he says, voice rough with emotion. I just provided backup. Andrea Braxton joins us, elegant and poised. The firm's partners would like to speak with you, she says quietly. When you're ready. I nod, understanding the implications. Trevor's colleagues distancing themselves, salvaging their firm's reputation by aligning with me instead. Across the courtroom, Vivian and Belle gather their belongings. Vivian's face is a mask of defiance, but Belle hesitates, glancing back with what might be remorse. As we prepare to leave, Trevor intercepts us near the door. Dad tenses beside me, but Trevor keeps the required distance. You'll regret this, he whispers, desperation, replacing the confidence that once made me doubt my own perceptions. I meet his gaze steadily. No, Trevor. The only regret was not leaving sooner. We exit together, Dad, Andrea, my attorney, hospital colleagues who testified on my behalf. The courthouse steps gleam in the afternoon sunlight as we descend toward a future without fear. For the first time in years, I breathe freely, shoulders straight, steps sure. Each breath tastes like freedom. 1 week later, I turn the brass key in the lock of my new apartment. The click sounds final, like a gavel striking wood. Sunlight pours through wide windows, hitting a freshly painted wall where a small security camera blinks steadily. Dad insisted on a layered system, motion sensors, reinforced locks, panic codes, every safeguard he knew. I breathe in the faint scent of fresh paint and cardboard boxes, letting the silence wrap around me. For the first time in years, I am alone without fear. News of the court's ruling has spread quickly. Trevor's suspension from Sullivan and Pierce arrived within days, the firm eager to distance itself from headlines about domestic coercion. Vivian's carefully constructed social standing crumbled just as fast. The country club board voted her out after reviewing the harassment evidence. The woman who once looked down her nose at me now faces neighbors' pointed stares. My phone buzzes with a new message. Belle. The text is hesitant, almost apologetic. I didn't realize how much I enabled him. I'm sorry. It isn't absolution, but it is the first time she's acknowledged her part in the damage. I set the phone down without replying, not ready to answer but unwilling to delete it either. At the hospital, I slide my badge through the scanner for my first weekend shift in months. Familiar antiseptic air fills my lungs, grounding me. Colleagues greet me with genuine warmth, arms wrapping around me in hugs I'd forgotten how much I missed. Administration surprises me with more than a welcome. They've created a new role, Pediatric Patient Advocacy Coordinator. It's the kind of position I once dreamed about, ensuring families never feel silenced or overlooked. A $15,000 raise confirms my worth in a way Trevor never allowed. Colonel Carter drops by that evening, crisp as always, his Navy discipline never softening even in retirement. He walks the perimeter, checking locks, making notes on blind spots. I catch him pausing by the living room window, shoulders relaxing when he sees the quilt folded on my couch. My grandmother's patchwork squares, once dismissed as a rag, have been recovered from storage and now rest in a place of honor. That night I fall asleep beneath its weight, the stitches pressing against my skin like a promise. I forgot what safety felt like. Now it feels like home. 7 months pass each day, carving distance from the woman who once cowered in her own kitchen. My reflection shows color in my cheeks again, muscle, where stress once hollowed me out. I stand straighter, not out of defense but out of confidence. At Chicago Memorial, I train younger nurses, watching them grow with the same pride my father once reserved for me. The advocacy program has expanded under my guidance, offering parents structured support during treatment. At a spring medical conference, I present our research results, reduced anxiety, improved recovery outcomes, and the applause rings genuine. Personal growth echoes professional success. My father and I share weekly dinners, now rebuilding years that Trevor tried to sever. He speaks of my mother with quiet reverence, and one night after watching me explain boundary setting to a colleague, he says softly, "You remind me of her, the strongest woman I ever knew." His words anchor me in a lineage of resilience. Meanwhile, Trevor's career collapses under the weight of his own choices. The state bar suspends his license for ethics violations. The firm terminates his employment soon after. Vivian relocates to Arizona, her reputation in tatters, while Belle begins therapy, facing the shadows of their family dynamics. Some scars on my heart remain, but I trace them like a roadmap of survival. I tell myself, they are not marks of weakness. They are proof I endured. 2 years later, I stand in the hospital's new memorial garden. Children's laughter mixes with the rustle of leaves. A bronze plaque dedicates the space to families lost too soon. I run my fingers over the engraving, remembering Chapter 1 of my life with Trevor, how public spaces once made me shrink into silence. Today, I step up to the podium without trembling hands. Colleagues and families gather, their eyes warm with trust. I speak with clarity, sharing not only the story of our patient's courage, but the importance of believing in our own worth. Applause doesn't feel threatening anymore. It feels like shared strength. After the ceremony, a young nurse lingers near the rose bushes, voice low as she confesses, "My husband, he's controlling. I don't know how to leave." I meet her eyes and answer with the truth that saved me. The first step is believing you deserve better. The advocacy program now includes staff support groups, and 3 nurses have already found freedom with our help. In the back row, Dad watches with arms crossed, pride softening his posture. Beside him, Andrea Braxton smiles, her presence reminding me of the dinner where I first reclaimed my voice. Later, I return to the garden with close friends and colleagues. A small silver ring glints in my hand. I slip it onto my own finger, lifting my voice so all can hear. I promise to honor myself and never again shrink for someone else's comfort. A ripple of emotion passes through the crowd, not pity but solidarity. You can't destroy someone who refuses to stay broken, I whisper, as the quilt pattern adapted into the hospital's new logo catches the sunlight on the nearby banner. It feels like a full circle stitched tight. My vow is no longer to Trevor, or even to survival, but to myself. The future waits steady and wide open, and I will meet it as Ava Carter, nurse advocate, daughter survivor.